What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Football Talk with Vinny. Obviously, the trade that just went down over the weekend was Matthew Stafford traded to the Los Angeles Rams, obviously from the Detroit Lions, in exchange for Jared Goff, a third rounder in 2021 and a first rounder in 2022 and 2023. So on first hand, my initial thought was, and I actually recorded it in my last video when I was doing the salary cap, I really think that that's a lot, it seemed like, to give up for Matthew Stafford, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a very good quarterback, but to trade 2 1s, a 3, and swap your quarterback, that is a lot. So my actual initial thought was, wow, if this is what Matthew Stafford gets traded for, I can't imagine to see what the package comes by for a guy like Deshaun Watson. But with that being said, let me get into the actual trade. First, I'll go from the Rams' perspective. For the Rams, I think it's a very good trade for them. Even though you gave up 2 1s, it seems like the Rams are actually good at giving up all their first round picks. They haven't picked in since 2016, since Jared Goff, I believe. But again, since you did make the trade, you do have a championship defense, right? They were first in almost every category defensively last year, right? You were able to play Aaron Rodgers in the divisional round, and you just didn't get enough offense to win the ball game. Obviously, your quarterback was hurt, but adding Stafford to the team, I think, is a huge upgrade. And if you are where the Rams are at, you are in a win now mode. You do have a 4-5-ish year window. So for the Rams, I think it's a huge upgrade. Even though Jared Goff numbers were pretty similar to Matthew Stafford, I do think that Stafford's just an overall better quarterback, better leader. I just think that the talent that Stafford has is just better than Jared Goff's. And I think the fact that he's going to now be in Sean McVay's system, and you're going to see him actually put up very, very big numbers. I actually think it's a great move for the Rams, even though, again, you don't have a first round pick. You'll probably see it when I do some mock drafts, but I kind of agree with the Rams, even though they've traded all their first round picks, and it seems like every other team in the league doesn't want to do that. Hitting on the draft is not as for sure as people think it is. So I think what the Rams are doing is they're saying, you know what, give me the proven commodity. Even though we know we have to pay for it, I'd rather take the proven commodity rather than try to guess in the draft and try to see if I hit. So from that standpoint, especially when you are a team that's already in that championship window mode where you're trying to compete, I really love the move. As for the Lions, I actually like the move for the Lions as well. Even though you did have to take on Jared Goff and his big contract, which I'll get to that in a second, you do get a quarterback, so at least you're not going into the season with nobody as their starting quarterback. And obviously the big part of the trade was you picked up a third rounder this year and then a first round pick in the next 2 drafts in 2022 and 2023. So for a team like Detroit, when you're rebuilding, I think getting assets of those high draft picks is exactly what you need to be doing, aka what the Jets did and the Dolphins did 2 years ago when they traded some of their players to have 3 first rounders, what the Raiders did 3-4 years ago when they traded Khalil Mack and had a bunch of first round picks. That's really how you build when you're going to just do a reset. You want to get some bad contracts off your books, and then you want to accumulate a lot of draft picks and then just kind of rebuild from there. So I do think it's kind of a win-win in this situation where, both teams kind of got what they wanted. Very quickly though, let me just go over the cap ramifications for the trade. Obviously, my last video, I went over basics of the salary cap. If you have not seen that video, I'll put that in the link in the description below. Make sure you check that out, just in case you're not sure of how salary cap works and all that. So first, for the Rams, and I have it down here for you. For the Rams, they're actually taking a $22.2 million cap hit just because they traded Jared Goff. And now Matthew Stafford, the guy they acquired, his cap hit for this season is going to be $20 million. So now they are paying essentially $42.2 million to the quarterback position, and that's not counting whoever they have as their backup. Whereas if they just would have kept Jared Goff, it would have been $34.95 million. So they're essentially taking an extra $7.25 million paying to that quarterback position to get Stafford over Jared Goff. Now with the Lions, they're actually taking on a larger cap hit in terms of just total quarterback money. So to trade Stafford, their cap hit's going to be $19 million, so not as much as Jared Goff, but Jared Goff, who they acquired, his actual cap number is going to be higher. His is going to be at $28.15 million. So If they would have just kept Stafford, they would have just paid the quarterback position 33 because that was Stafford's number. So instead, they're paying an extra $14.15 million when you add both the dead cap number and now Jared Goff's contract. So you might look at that trade and say, well, why would the Lions even want Jared Goff at that point if you're going to have to pay more for the quarterback position, right? You don't feel it's an upgrade, right? Why would you even do it? And obviously, from my perspective, just thinking from both franchises, you have to maybe assume some things about some other trade offers that were coming in, right? Because to me, if I was the Detroit Lions, if a team like Indianapolis was going to give me 2 first-round picks and not give me a bad contract back and a quarterback, right, I would probably end up just taking that deal. If the football team would have given me 2 first-round picks, I probably would have just taken that without taking on a bad contract. So what I probably think, and obviously we'll never know because the trades that didn't go down will never really get public, but probably what ended up happening was you had teams like Indianapolis, the football team, probably try to offer their first-round pick in this year's draft, which again is around that low teens, or high teens, excuse me, early 20s pick, right? So you had teams offer those first-rounders, and probably that was it. Maybe a third, but you didn't get that additional first-round pick. So essentially what ends up happening in this deal is you are trading to get Jared Goff, and in return, you're getting an extra first-round pick. So this actually has already happened before. Not in the same capacity, but a couple years back, Brock Osweiler was on the Houston Texans, and he actually got traded to Cleveland. And in order for the trade to go through, because the Texans were paying him a lot of money and they just wanted to get off the contract. So yeah, they actually traded Brock Osweiler and a 2nd-round pick in exchange for a compensatory 4th-round pick from Cleveland. So essentially, Cleveland got the quarterback and got 2 rounds up in the draft, right? And the reason why is because Cleveland took on a bad contract in Brock Osweiler, right? So they had to eat that dead money. Not obviously the proration, the signing bonus, but they had to eat his contract, which, had some guaranteed salaries in it and stuff. So they ended up taking that bill, and in exchange, essentially, they moved up 2 rounds. So for a team like Cleveland, they're rebuilding, so they're just really interested in acquiring high draft picks, right? The salary that they paid to Brock Osweiler, they didn't care because they knew they weren't going to compete that year or the next year either. So I think the Lions are in a similar situation. They knew that Jared Goff's probably not the long-term answer. He might be. Again, he's a young quarterback too. He had a couple good years. He's had a couple bad years. So we'll see. But if you're the Lions, you're really more interested in getting that extra 2nd-round pick that you got from the Rams that I don't think you were getting from other teams. Right, so now if you're the Lions, you now have the 7th pick in the draft. So if you decided to draft a quarterback there, who knows? Maybe if you get the quarterback at 7, maybe you even try to trade Jared Goff. Maybe a team like New England or Indianapolis, maybe if they don't get a long-term answer at the quarterback position or they don't find one early in the draft, maybe you trade Jared Goff, maybe for some small round pick, maybe a 5th or a 6th rounder, right, just to get him off the team. Or maybe a team like New England gets a little desperate if they don't find a quarterback, maybe they give you a 3rd-round pick or even a 2nd-round pick for a guy like Jared Goff. I mean, again, Josh Rosen, 1 year after playing in Arizona, was traded for, I believe it was a late 2nd-round pick to the Miami Dolphins, or maybe it was an early 3rd-round pick, excuse me. So at that point, if you're able to flip Jared Goff and not only get an additional one to take on his contract, but you're able to trade him a month or 2 later for maybe a 3 or a 4, now you just got extra draft capital for acquiring Jared Goff. So that's it for the video. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about the trade? Do you think the Lions won? Do you think the Rams won? Do you think it's a win-win? Or do you think maybe both of them lost out? I happen to think it is a win-win in this rare situation, because even worst case scenario for the Lions is if Jared Goff doesn't work out and he's not the long-term answer, you still have all those draft picks. And if you're the Rams, as long as Matthew Stafford plays, really the way he's been playing his whole career, I think you would be okay with that. Even if you don't win the championship, you can't really base it on winning the championship or not. But if he plays well, you will say to yourself, it was a better pick than Jared Goff. Obviously, the only way I think this turns out as a loss, really, for the Rams is if Jared Goff takes a huge step and is literally outplaying Matthew Stafford in Detroit. So then you would look at it and say, oh man, I can't believe we gave up all that for Stafford, who's getting older, and Jared Goff is younger, and if he starts to play a little better. But honestly, I don't really see that happening, so I do think that it is a rare win-win for both teams. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video.